I believe he did like a post-game interview with ESPN because it's traditional after you win a championship to do that. I don't think he'd given a sit down to ESPN in 4 or 5 years. Dave, is that about right?
Yeah, it had been about 4 years. Him and I sat down at a hotel in Hollywood for about a half hour in December of 2018. So a couple months into his first year with the Lakers. Obviously, part of that time gap is COVID, and there was restricted access for a while in the NBA. But yeah, it's kind of just a rarity, and also part of it is he has many different outlets he can choose.
Yeah, it's not personal. He has uninterrupted. He now he's doing, he's got the shop. Now he's doing, he had done a few Amazon Thursday night second screen things. Just LeBron doesn't do it. So, first off, like getting the interview was significant. And he talked in that interview, the thing I think some people took away from it was that he kind of altered his stance on what he's been saying about Bronny. I don't want to go into that in depth, but I just want to cover it real quick in case people missed it. You asked him about Bronny, who's playing his senior year of high school at Sierra Canyon. Real quick, would you clarify how he just slightly altered what he's been saying for the last year or so?
Well, obviously, LeBron, and I think if you gave him a truth serum, maybe it'd be a goal 1 and 1A. But we've heard for years and years and years that his primary goal, no matter how long he's still in the league, is to stack championships. But I asked him to kind of close our interview, what's the one thing that you need to see happen in your career before you can hang it up? And he said he's got to be on the floor with his son, with his boy, his oldest son, Bronny. On the floor, though, that was the distinction. That was the change in the stance. He came off the I need to be teammates with my son. Now, he did say I that would be his preferred situation, spend a year with him, mimic the relationship and dynamic as teammates that Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. had. But he also said that, I just got to be, playing on the floor at the same time. He said, not necessarily match up against one another. Bronny's point guard. They have me playing center sometimes these days. But, to me, that was acknowledging that, he may not be running from the situation that he's in if somehow, the Lakers can't end up being the team that would acquire him on draft night 2024.
Right. Even if he's even in the draft in 24, it doesn't necessarily, because
right.
One thing this LeBron is showing is that, he's slowing down relative to where he was 10 years ago, but he's not slowing down much. He signed a 2-year extension with the Lakers. Only 1 year of it is guaranteed. He has a player option after next year, but I see no reason to think that he will not be in the league for those 2 years, probably playing at a high level, barring injury. He looks like he's got juice in the tank. So,
and honestly, for us old guys, Brian, I will say us now that I've hit my 4th decade.
Congrats.
Thank you. The constant line he's been using is that as long as his mind stays in it and sharp, that his body will follow. And it is really true. Like, you could sound like, just kind of glossing over it. But if you stay passionate about what you're doing, and it starts with the mind, you got to consider that endeavor a worthwhile pursuit. I talked to one of his former teammates in the last week, and he hasn't been out of the game all that long. And he was telling me that towards the end, like, he started getting tired of having the same type of conversations with people who are 20 years younger than him. And his wife kind of was like, aren't you ready to let that go? Aren't you ready to have different conversations with being at a different stage of your life? you had to kind of have a willing suspension of a growth period as well to stay fresh in this type of a role that LeBron's been in for so long. And I believe it. I think the way you see him engaging at times right now, he seems more 10 toes down than at other stage of his career. I think back to some of his early days when he went back to the Cavs for the second time around. I was like, oh, I'm looking at a guy that may only have 2 or 3 years left at that point. And now we're talking about him playing almost a decade since he went back to Cleveland for the second time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot is made about, nobody's saying that LeBron is losing his edge. I think his intensity level within seasons sometimes wanes a little bit, and sometimes it's tied to the team's performance. Sometimes it's just tied to other things. It's been tied to injury. But when he's locked in, he's still damn impressive. So the Lakers, Anthony Davis went down on December 18th. They have played 12 games since that time. They are 7-5 in those 12 games. LeBron has played in 10 of those games. So in the 10 games since Anthony Davis went down, these are LeBron James statistics. 35 minutes a game, 34 points a game, 57% shooting, 24% on threes, 82% at the line, 7 rebounds, almost 8 assists. And he bridged his 38th year. And in that stretch, far and away, the Lakers leader in plus minus. By the way, the second player in Lakers plus minus in that stretch is Russ, who's also played 10 games in that stretch. We'll talk about Russ in a minute. But those numbers, Dave, are just tremendous. I'm not going to say that it's the best 10-game stretch of his career. I'm not going to say that it's not without flaws, because one of the things that's happened since Anthony Davis went down is that the Lakers defense, which was in the top 10 for most of the year, has kind of had the bottom fall out of it. They're in the bottom 6, I think. I think they're 24th in defense in that stretch. You mentioned when we came on here that they've lost some of their defenders, some of their wing defenders, and that's hurt. But you have to say that, LeBron, it's getting lost a little bit because he's not scoring 50 regularly. But, he had that game in Atlanta on right before the new year. It was on his birthday, right? On his birthday, actual day. I mean, that's a vintage. I don't want to be pinned down to that. That's a classic LeBron performance. I mean, you look at him playing, and regardless what you want to say about the Lakers, you have to acknowledge what he's still doing.
Yeah, he finds a way. He is still the ultimate basketball supercomputer, and he's processing, okay, without these pieces, while adding these pieces, we need to play this style of ball. I need to bring my level from part A to point B, and somehow put those things together. It's going to look like this if we have a chance at winning. And I don't think the minutes, you said it's around 35 here. That's good. There was some games where he was getting into the mid 40s, where I asked Darvin Ham about it because it just didn't seem like a sustainable formula here. And that will be on the Lakers coaching staff to figure out, and ultimately maybe on the Lakers front office to figure out getting some more pieces that the coaching staff feels comfortable giving minutes to, where you don't have to play LeBron when the tank is on empty. But it's damn impressive. And look at the other guys who have played in the stage of their career, year 19 or beyond. Look at the numbers that Vince Carter were putting up, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kevin Willis, Kobe Bryant, Dirk Nowitzki at this stage of their career. And then look at LeBron's numbers. I mean, it's you wouldn't believe that those guys were playing, quote unquote, healthy basketball, all those other legends. But no, their bodies just showed atrophy. The game caught up to them. LeBron continues to defy the odds outside of the 3-point shooting, but the 3-point shooting I don't think is anything physically. I watched him warm up the other night at Staples, at Crypto.com Arena for a good while, and his shot looked sharp. It just didn't. It hasn't been translating onto the court. I think that's probably a mental block thing more than anything. It's wild, and we're running out of ways to describe it. I think, as you mentioned, like maybe this streak he's on isn't getting quite the same amount of attention because you do have Luka with the 60-point triple doubles, and you have 71 from Donovan Mitchell, and you have things like
Giannis
Joel
has had
Embiid
a couple of
going nuts.
50-point games.
These guys, the league's going nuts right now, and they all deserve credit as well. But they're not doing it 20 years in. They're not doing it at age 38, and they're not doing it for the most part with their star companion who they won a championship with now out for a significant chunk of time for the third straight season. That's a mental toll as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go over old ground here, but I've been making the case for a few years that LeBron's resume for, where he ranks all time is based largely around longevity. The record that he's about to surpass with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and you talked to LeBron about this a little bit in your interview. It's a scoring record, but really it's a longevity record. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was not the greatest scorer of all time, just like LeBron is not the greatest scorer of all time. Those two guys were tremendously great for a tremendously long period of time. It's an honor of being really great for a really long time. It's like half longevity, half execution. It's that Kareem was able to keep himself in condition, avoid major injury, and that he came into the league and was dominant from day one, like LeBron. It's an ode to picking yourself up year after year, keeping yourself in condition, keeping yourself sharp, not letting go of the rope. That's what it's an ode to, and that's what LeBron's career really has become. But I think a lot of people, LeBron has been dropping some hints on and off several different times about, nudging the Lakers towards making a move. And you talked to him a little bit about where he's at right now. I just want, before I sort of launch in here, I want to get where you think LeBron is with the Lakers and the Lakers are with LeBron in terms of trying to do something with this roster right now.
I think LeBron can't help himself but feel some level of urgency while he is playing this well, knowing what he knows. I mentioned all those legends look at their numbers when they get to this stage of this career, that it can be fleeting, and looking to apply pressure in a way that's not overtly disrespectful, because the Lakers appear to be sensitive to public perception of how they do their business in that front office and ownership group, by applying pressure in order to just get some more pieces. LeBron James, I reported earlier in the year that the leaders in the Lakers locker room, and of course you would put him under that category, believe that they are really a couple pieces away from being able to make a significant run, in part because, not that it's a down year for the NBA, but there's not necessarily dominant teams out there that you would circle and say that we just can't beat them in a 7-game series, certainly in the Western Conference. And so, like a deal done, there's the line that's been thrown around from people who are, with LeBron and his cause. Tell me one person, tell me the name of someone who you're scouting in the 2027 draft. Tell me the name of the 6th grader right now who could be coming out in 2029. What you do have is one of the best players of all time still playing at a super high level. And again, it's the bird in the hand versus two in the bush. And It would like for them to continue to push the chips towards the table. Now, the Lakers will say, we only got really one shot to do a significant deal here with these future draft picks, and we got to make sure it's the right one. And we got to make sure it's at the right time as well, because, hey, LeBron, we want you to be in the best situation over the next 2 years as well. We have mutual interests here. Lakers want to win. You want to win. Maybe leading up to the trade deadline in February of 2023 might not be as beneficial of a deal as July of 2023. And we just want to have the best deal that will get you to the end, to put you on a championship caliber team before your days with the Lakers are up.
Dave, I got a trivia question for you. How many first-round picks as rookies has LeBron played with in his career? In other words, the team drafted the player with LeBron on the team, and he played with them on the team that year. First-round draft pick rookies. So I'm not counting Shabazz Napier, like where the Heat drafted him and they kept him, but he was gone. And I'm not counting Colin Sexton, where the Cavs drafted him, but he's gone, just to be clear. I want you to guess in 20 years, and a couple of years, his teams acquired extra first-round picks. I want you to guess how many of those 5 LeBron has played with, actually shared the court with. I just gave it away. How many of those?
You gave me the number.
I'm not the best. I'm not the best at this job.
You're pretty damn good. So 5 in 20 years. Yeah, that.
I am going to tell you the 5 names.
Okay, please.
Luke Jackson. Great guy, hurt his back, was never anything. Shannon Brown.
Whose brother now is playing for the Lakers on a 10-day contract.
Wild. J.J. Hickson. Norris Cole. That's probably the only guy that he's played with that had a significant impact as a rookie and really over the first few years. Mm-hmm. But it was also because he came to the Heat, who had multiple Hall of Famers. But I will say that in 2011-12, when he won his first championship, Norris Cole played a role. By the way, the Heat traded for Norris Cole on draft night. It wasn't their pick. And last but not least, you want to take a guess at the last one that he played with?
Man,
I'll give you a hint. It was a Laker.
Joe Harris? No, a Laker.
Oh, you
know
Joe
what?
Harris
was a second rounder.
No, you know what?
Joe might have been second rounder though.
Well, it does count. So he wasn't on the team when they drafted him, but he played with them as a rookie. So it does count. Joe Harris. Yeah, Joe Harris was a second round pick. Mo Wagner.
Oh, Mo Wagner. There you go.
Who was summarily traded after 1 year with him. Okay. So now go look LeBron James in the face. Because obviously he hasn't cared about first round picks in a long time. Okay. And there's why. Okay. And by the way, the other years where the picks got traded, like really there are 2 significant players who were drafted by picks that LeBron's team had that they traded. One was Andrew Wiggins, who they traded for Kevin Love, and they won the title 1 year later. They were in the finals that year. Let me tell you how 0 regrets there are there. The other one is kind of, and that's DeAndre Hunter, who is a quality player and has upside. The Lakers would love to have him right now, but you know who they'd like to have more? The guy they traded for him in Anthony Davis. So the 2, all the other picks that ended up moving out, the 2 sort of significant players were one of them is still kind of on the rise. The only guy who's been drafted with a first round pick by LeBron's teams ever that became an all-star was Andrew Wiggins. And that happened last year for the first time. Okay. So now tell me why LeBron James should sit here and worry about first round picks. And that's what the basis of this is. And so like we can have a discussion, and we've had discussions about whether or not you or not necessarily you, but someone thinks that the Lakers are being too protective or disrespectful or whatever. But you can certainly understand why LeBron does not care about first round picks. And also the one thing about LeBron is he's taken teams that are, lower on talent and overachieved with them. Several of those Cavs teams he took deep into the playoffs that didn't have great talent. And so I don't think there's a trade that exists that the Lakers can make, and all of a sudden they're a serious title contender. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't necessarily see it. But I totally understand why LeBron does not care. And I totally understand why he's like, or there's a feeling that get me a player and a half, and let me maximize what this team can do. Even if that maximizing what this team to do might be getting into the playoffs through the play-in and going 6 competitive games with the team. That might be a great season for the Lakers. What you said about the way the Lakers look at it is exactly what I've heard too. I mean, I totally understand that. And I'm somebody who said, you've got to have patience. But from LeBron's point of view, I cannot blame him for taking that position. What I do wonder is, last year he didn't come out and really hit the Lakers until they were inactive at the deadline. After they were inactive at the deadline, unless I'm misremembering,
no, you're
that's
correct.
that's when he expressed his disappointment. We're now a month from the deadline. I think it's like a month from the day this podcast comes out. I think it's February 8th. No, today's the 8th, so Sunday the 8th. So we're a month from the deadline. Will LeBron James, especially if the Lakers keep getting wins, will he be able to hold himself back? I don't know, Dave. And I don't know what the Lakers are going to do about it.
I mean, not only last year did it lead to, a ton of rancor and just feelings that got so hurt that you wondered if he was going to finish his career in LA. There was the report I had after the trade deadline where Rob Pelinka comes out and says that Anthony Davis and LeBron James were on board with the Lakers in action at the trade deadline. And I reported that that was not the case.
Oh my God, I can remember. I remember when that story landed in my inbox. I get copied when you file news stories on the Lakers sometimes, and I was like, oh boy.
and quite frankly, it could go that direction. And listen, I don't think LeBron James, he still has a lot of joy for the game of basketball, and I think there are many parts of playing for the Lakers that he enjoys as much as playing for any of the other franchises he's been a part of in his time in the league. But this is a mechanism that's available to him to talk to reporters in order to let his feelings be known, especially when he knows that what he says will be heard from the people that call the shots.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.